Thanks for joining this webinar on king tides and the California King Tides Project. My name's Annie Kohut Frankel. I'm with the California Coastal Commission, which is the statewide manager of the King Tides Project. You can reach us by email at kingtides@coastal.ca.gov. The California King Tides Project is part of an international community science effort asking people to safely photograph the shoreline during the highest tides of the year. Photographing the impacts of these tides helps us better understand and plan for future sea level rise in order to protect the people and places that are important to us. King tides is not a scientific term. It's a catchy phrase coined in Australia to describe the highest high tides of the year. King tides are a natural and regular phenomenon created when the sun, the moon, and the earth line up, amplifying their gravitational pull on the ocean. Around the new year, the earth is also a little bit closer to the sun, further increasing the pull. The King Tides Project creates a snapshot of photos along our coast taken during these highest winter tides every year. King tides help us see what's vulnerable to flooding now, and they help us understand what is vulnerable to sea level rise in the near future. Global sea level rise is driven by climate change. When we burn fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas, we release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which acts like a heat-trapping blanket around the Earth. More fossil fuels means more and more carbon dioxide heating the air, land, and ocean. Some of the sea level rise we're seeing is because when water gets warmer, it takes up more space. Another reason is that as our planet warms, glaciers and ice sheets are melting into the ocean, adding more water and raising the sea level. The amount of sea level rise we ultimately see will depend on how quickly we stop burning fossil fuels. There are regional differences in the relative rate of sea level rise due to factors like plate tectonics, with some areas being slowly pushed upward and some downward with the movement of the Earth's plates, or due to differences in ocean current patterns, or a variety of other factors. So some locations may be experiencing a faster or slower rate of sea level rise than the global average. King tides are generally 1 to 2 feet higher than the average high tide throughout the year, which is a good approximation of what we expect to see over the next few decades of human-caused sea level rise. That means that when you see a flooded road or a flooded beach during king tides, you can think about water levels being at least that high every day within the next few decades. And when that's the new average high tide, king tides and storm surges in the future will reach even farther inland. These high waters can impact homes and neighborhoods. They can impact transportation routes, coastal industry, and habitat for species that rely on beaches and coastal wetlands. They can impact infrastructure, recreation, and much more. Again, king tides are part of a natural cycle, but they help us understand the impacts of human-caused sea level rise. Taking part in the King Tides Project is a great jumping off point for conversations about climate change with friends and family. The Yale program on climate change communication showed that while 72% of Americans surveyed understand that global warming is happening, 64% never discuss it with others. Only 59% of Americans surveyed understand that climate change is caused by people, and 45% think it won't harm them personally. Conversations with people you know and trust are important to our understanding of climate change. When you talk to someone about what you notice, about what you care about, it helps them know that they're not alone in caring and in noticing. It helps us act in the world based on our shared reality. So king tides photos help us document current flood risk in coastal areas, visualize the impacts of future sea level rise in a community, ground truth and validate climate change models by comparing model predictions with the high tide reality, serve as a living record of change for future generations, and get us all talking about impacts of flooding and climate change. So, how do you get involved in the King Tides Project? This is the California King Tides Project web address, coastal.ca.gov/kingtides. And here are 5 things that you can do on the site. The first 2 items can be done by anyone, anywhere, at any time, whether you're contributing data to the project or not. You can explore photos that other people have submitted over the years, and you can access curricular resources and teaching tips for including king tides and sea level rise in classroom learning. During the king tide season, you can also find a list of local community events to join, where you might observe the king tides with your neighbors or hear from experts about sea level rise impacts. And as of now, there are a couple dozen events listed on the website for this season, organized by local groups up and down the coast. To view king tides photos, there is a gallery page on the website with a small selection of recent photos organized by county. But to see all of the photos back to 2018, you click on the link to the King Tides photo map, where you'll see something like this. I have the web address here at the top of the page, but you can easily find the link on the King Tides web pages. So you can zoom in to the map on the left side of the screen to see more photo locations. And you can click on a map pin, one of those blue dots, or on a photo thumbnail on the right to enlarge the photo and read the text description. Please do note that this photo map works much better on a computer than on a phone. So anyone can contribute photos to the map. All you need is a smartphone or digital camera and the ability to get to a tidally influenced shoreline during a king tide. Start by going to our website and clicking on How to Participate, which will take you to this page. And on this page, you'll find a map of California showing where you can find your local, which is where you can find your local king tides dates, times, and projected heights. This is a different map than the photo map. So you don't have to only photograph the places that are on this tide map. This map just shows locations of tide stations from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association. So you should choose where you want to go photograph and then find the location on this map that's closest to the place you're going and then use those times as your guide. So where should you take your king tides photos? Choose a place that's influenced by the tides, so the coast, bay, or delta, or a coastal wetland, or near the mouth of a coastal river or creek. It could be a place you've never been that you want to visit. It could be a place that's especially important to you, maybe because you used to go there as a child or you vacation there with your family. If you're lucky to live near the coast, it could be your local beach or somewhere near your house. If there's a place like a trail or a road that you know often floods during high tide, that could be a great place to photograph. But you don't have to seek out those places. Every place will be interesting and valuable to document during the king tides. Plan to take your photographs on one of the days that are noted on the tide map within a half hour on either side of the peak high tide if possible. That way you'll be sure that you're catching the tide at its highest. I do want to acknowledge that depending on the weather, king tide days may or may not be the highest water level of the year. If a storm coincides with king tides, the water could be much higher than predicted and could cause a lot of damage. If there's a storm on another day that's not king tides, it's possible that that day could have a higher water level than the king tide day. And sometimes the ocean might be very calm during king tides. And depending on where you are, it might not look super extreme to you. That's okay. The King Tides Project is gathering a snapshot across the California coast of the highest predicted astronomical tides, meaning those defined by the moon, earth, and sun. No matter what the weather, your king tide photos are valuable to this project. King tide days don't just have extreme high tides, they also have extreme low tides. During winter king tide days on our coast, the extreme low tide will happen in the afternoon, and that's a great time to go tide pooling, weather permitting. If you want to submit low tide photos to the King Tides Project, you are welcome to, and we do enjoy seeing them, but they will not be placed on the King Tide photo map. Since this project is about documenting the extreme high tides, we're really only requesting your high tide photos. Back to the King Tides website. Just below the tide map is where you can learn how to upload your photos. There are two ways to do it. One way is to download the Survey 123 app onto your phone, following the instructions on the King Tides website, and then you can use the app to upload your photos. Or you can just upload photos using a web browser, either on your phone or on a computer. Instructions for how to do that are also found on the King Tides Project website. Either way, you do not need to create an account or share any personal information unless you want to. Here's what the photo upload form looks like, whether you're using the app or a web browser. Instructions are included in both English and Spanish. First, you input the date of your photo, and that box is pre-filled with the current date, so be sure to change it if that's not when you took your photo. Scrolling down, there's a box where you can click to upload your photo, or you can drag it into that box if you have a file folder open and you're doing this on a computer. Below that, you input the exact time you took your photo. And again, this box is pre-filled with the current time, so be sure to correct that if needed. Then below that, there's a map where you can type in the address where you were or zoom in and drop a pin where you were when you took your photo. I encourage you to zoom in as far as you can to be really accurate with where you place your pin. Below the map, there's a box for you to type in a location name for your photo. And it's great if you can follow the example format that's shown here, which says Ocean Beach at Judas Street, comma, San Francisco. So it's the specific location first, such as a beach name or an intersection, followed by a comma, followed by the city name. The location name should be brief. This isn't where you write a really long description. Below that, however, is a box where you can include a description of what you saw. This field is optional, but a description can help the viewer better understand your photo. You might describe the weather, the direction you were facing when you took your photograph, observations about how the water is impacting nearby structures or animals, how what you're seeing compares to what the location looks like on an average day, if that's something you know, or anything else that feels relevant to you. Again, this one is optional. Finally, there's a box for your email address, which is also totally optional. If you do include your address, that means that we can reach out to you if we have questions about your photo or its location. and you'll be added to the King Tides email list to receive announcements about the project. Usually at the end of the King Tide season, I'll also send an email to everyone who submitted a photo and included their email address, inviting them to review their photos and let me know if there are errors in the map placement. At the bottom of the form are terms and conditions, which includes acknowledgement that it's your photo and you are granting unconditional, non-exclusive use of that photo. Then you click Submit to upload. Behind the scenes, King Tides project folks review all of the photos that are submitted. We do our best to confirm and, if needed, correct the location of the photos before we place them on the photo map. We might slightly edit some of the text you included for consistency or typos, but the text will come from what you wrote in your photo submission. Your email will not be posted on the map. To view a photo, click on one of these blue points on the map or on one of the thumbnails on the right side of the page. That will enlarge the photo and move the thumbnails to the bottom of the screen like you see here. And there are some other tools on this map that you can explore. If you'd like to read the photo's description, if there is one, click on the little arrow next to the location name to expand that text box. Also on the bottom right of the image, there are icons to see the photo even larger or to download a copy of the photo. On the top right corner, you can get a link to the page that you're looking at or share it on various social platforms. If you've been participating for a while, you may notice that this is a new map layout. Previously, we weren't able to link to a specific photo on the map, so this is a nice addition. This photo map template is a little touchy with regard to your screen size. If you have a smaller screen or resolution, the map might look like this instead of what I just showed you, with the map on the right and photos on the left, and some slightly different and reduced functionality than what I was describing. If that's the case and you want to see the wider screen version, you can just reduce the zoom level of your browser and it will reset to the view that I was describing to look like this. And just a tip, if you're on a PC and you want to reduce your zoom level, you can hold down the Control key while clicking on the minus sign key. If you're on a Mac, it's Option plus Command plus minus sign. Or you can reduce your zoom level in the Tools menu of your browser window. So now we get to tips for taking your King Tides photo. Very important, make sure that your location services are turned on for your camera app. For privacy reasons, many of us turn off location services or GPS tracking for our phone and apps. However, you do want your camera to geotag your King Tides photo because that will ensure that it will be mapped accurately. If you've never turned off location services or don't know what I'm talking about, then location services are probably on and you don't need to worry about it. If you plan to use a camera that does not geotag your photos, please take careful note of exactly where you were when you took your photo or when you take your photo. That way you can accurately map your photo when you complete the King Tides upload form. If your photo's geotagged, we'll be able to check the information on the photo and confirm exactly where it was taken from. Another tip, include something stationary, something that doesn't move in your photo, like a seawall, for example, or a building, or beach access stairs, or a bluff, or something else that will help show the water level. You might take beautiful photos of crashing waves looking directly out at the ocean. These are great for your own photo album and for your wall, but without context, they don't help us understand the king tides. Photos of roadways flooded by tidal water are very helpful for understanding the impact of king tides. And that's true even if the shoreline isn't in the photo. In some locations, king tides may push groundwater up into the street. If you know of a place where that happens, that's a good place to take a photo. Another tip, give animals extra space during this time. Keep in mind, shorebirds, other animals may be higher up than usual during king tides, so try not to disturb wildlife while taking your photo. And the most important thing to remember is to stay safe. Watch the waves, watch your footing. Don't hurt yourself just for a great photo. One thing that king tides really highlights for me personally is how close we are to the ocean in more ways than one. It's right there, right next to us, pushing and pulling and influencing our lives, whether we live on the coast or miles inland. I hope you can join this community science project by taking photos of the next king tides or by exploring the photos if you can't get to the coast this winter. This project is an opportunity to experience and share the beauty and power of the California coast and why it's so important to protect. Thank you again for your interest, and I look forward to seeing your photos of the king tides.